Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this Power BI demo. My name is Tom Hart. I'm a pre-sales solution engineer at Boyer & Associates. And today we are going to review what is Power BI, why choose Power BI, and then walk through a demo that will include some of the core features, such as connecting to data sources, creating reports, and sharing. And then reviewing how Power BI Embedded is distinct from the rest of the Power BI functionality. What is Power BI? In brief, it is several elements that work together, including Power BI Desktop, which is primarily used as the authoring environment by report designers and developers, Power BI Service, which is in the browser, and where you can interact with reports, dashboards, and apps, as well as share them and control how they are shared. The Power BI mobile apps, which are on iOS, Android, and Windows devices for viewing Power BI reports, dashboards, and apps on the go. We won't be reviewing those today, but there are some samples available online that you can download and check out onto your mobile device. And then Power BI Embedded, which is for embedding Power BI visualizations into an existing application or web page. And we'll get into that a little further detail in today's demo as well. So when people talk about Power BI, they're often referring to an end user report. But it's important to keep in mind that there are many pieces to Power BI and that Microsoft has been developing this analytics and business intelligence technology for many years and building on the decades of work that they have in this space as well. And at the end of the demo, we'll highlight some industry recognition that Power BI continues to receive for its innovative and impactful nature. So continuing in that same vein of why choose Power BI, it is integrated into the Microsoft ecosystem, and that brings a number of benefits with easy import and export functionality with Excel and other Microsoft tools, such as PowerPoint, where you can take reports and present them in PowerPoint and still maintain a live connection to those reports. And with the large cloud presence that Microsoft has with Azure and 365, both for productivity and Dynamics 365, there are many pre-built connectors that make it very easy to bring your data from these other parts of the Microsoft ecosystem into Power BI and make that a two-way connection. So there's a lot of really beneficial interoperability between Power BI and the Microsoft ecosystem. Power BI also strikes that rare balance between being easy to use, as we'll see today in the demo. You can get up and started with Power BI very quickly, and being able to scale to very large and complex use cases in a secure manner. So that combination of ease of use, scalability, and security really speaks highly of what Power BI is capable of and how it has been developed over time. It continues to be a very innovative and reliable service. So from an innovative perspective, most recently, there have been some pretty interesting announcements with Microsoft Fabric and this more end-to-end vision that Microsoft is bringing forward for a human-centered analytics platform, and how Power BI will continue to play an important role in Microsoft Fabric and this evolution, as well as with Copilot and all of the AI Copilot work that Microsoft has been rolling out. And we'll see today some of the interesting AI features that already exist within Power BI. It is also cost effective. So there are different ways to license, which are outside of the scope of today's video, but you can easily find pricing information online, and partners such as Boyer can help with aligning your license or consumption charges for Power BI to your particular use case. And it's being actively developed. So like I mentioned with Fabric and Copilot, there continue to be important improvements to Power BI that make it a ongoing and more valuable with time analytics and business intelligence tool. Related to that being actively developed is the active community with Power BI. So it's really helpful to have a lot of other users, a lot of other companies that are working with the tool, because then there are forums online, such as in the Fabric community, where you can see questions and answers about particular challenges that you may run into. If there's an error in a data connection or a visual is not loading the way that you think it should, oftentimes other people have run into those challenges as well, especially with the large number of users of Power BI and that active community dynamic. One good example of this active community is the data stories gallery. So just jumping out there real quick, you can see an example of a visual vocabulary that someone shared to this data stories gallery. And this is publicly accessible. You can download this visual vocabulary and get some inspiration and template for how to work with some of these visuals yourself. So if you're trying to figure out how to show correlation in your data, or you want to show part to whole relationships, there are some great examples here, as well as brief descriptions for when these different visuals are helpful. And that ability to download it here shows up pretty commonly throughout the data stories gallery. So it can be really helpful to have this active community of people sharing resources and places where you can get inspiration and not have to reinvent the wheel on some of this work. One more highlight with the active community is Microsoft App Source, which is an app marketplace where you can download or purchase. There's some free options and paid options for apps that people have developed with Power BI. And further on today, I'll give a brief kind of definition around how apps, reports, and dashboards all relate to one another. And you can also download components or visuals within Power BI, such as particular text filters or slicers. And that can be a great way to extend the functionality of Power BI using what the community has developed. So there's that very mutually beneficial dynamic between Microsoft's core development and the active community that encompasses it. So today we're going to look at this core functionality and all focused on the theme of improving decision making. When we will look at how you can easily connect Power BI to data sources, configure dataset column visibility, quickly create reports, publish those reports to the Power BI service, and set permissions on who can view and interact with those visuals, and then share the report via email, Teams, and more. Jumping into Power BI Desktop, I mentioned this at the start of our time today, where this is the authoring environment. And you'll see right away, it is prompting me to add data to the report. And it proposes several common data sources. So a lot of people will be quickly bringing in data from Excel or SQL and working with it here. There's also a wide variety of other pre-built connectors that you can just visually select here from Salesforce and Amazon Web Services to LinkedIn and QuickBooks and other accounting tools. So lots of good options that you can filter down. And of course, a lot of Microsoft connections here as well. Like I mentioned at the beginning, making it easy to connect to your various Microsoft data sources and visualize them here in Power BI. For today's demo, I'm actually going to use the sample data set. And if you're just getting started with Power BI, this can be a nice way to try it out with some sample data. Or you can use Bing or ChatGPT and generate sample data that way as well. So this is a very similar flow to when you bring in an actual data set. It shows you the folder and the files that you've selected. It gives this preview of the data that you're looking to load and this option to transform the data. So I'm going to select that so that I can remove a couple of columns here. So we've created this connection between Power BI and this data source, in this case, just a sample data set, essentially an Excel file. And I'm going to select the discount column and this other discounts column. And I want to remove these. You can see they don't have any kind of useful data in here for reporting. So I select remove. Over here, I'm seeing a nice visual feedback of the applied steps that I've taken. And I can close and apply these changes. There's a lot more that you can do here with the Power Query Editor to transform your data prior to starting the reporting process. And there are ways with data flows where you can make these transformations automated. So maybe you consistently receive an Excel file that you want to remove several columns from and convert a data type from text to numbers, so it's easier to report on. You could set all of that through a data flow so that you don't have to manually do that each time, but Power BI will help you automate that. So we'll close and apply. Just removed a couple of columns here. And now Power BI is loading that data into the canvas, into our authoring environment. And we can see that financial sample data is now loaded on the right column here. So we've gone from connecting Power BI to data source, which is enabling more report authors because it's very easy to do. We've configured dataset column visibility, so you can confidently work with data in compliance if you need to, say, remove PII or other sensitive data prior to reporting. And configuring dataset column visibility just makes it easier to focus on the data that you want to report on and maybe reduce some of the noise from your original dataset. And now we're going to look at quick report creation and how this can enable more self-service data exploration. So back here in Power BI Desktop, I'm going to start with just a table, a very common, familiar visual, and oftentimes part of reporting efforts. So let's make this just a basic table that's going to show some of the year and sales information. So I'm going to select date and specifically just the year. So I'll deselect these other options. And then I'm going to select the country. We'll do sales sum of gross sales, and we'll go sale price as well. So showing how you can quickly bring data from your right column here into the table. And now let's go ahead and look at, now that we've got kind of a base table added to our report, how we can add other types of visuals. So one good example of AI within Power BI is this Q&A feature, where it's doing natural language processing, and I can just ask a question about the data, giving me a number of suggestions here. And it will help surface an answer as well as visuals related to that answer. So let's look at gross sales by year. And you can see it's giving this visual showing that we have a significant increase in sales. Nice hockey stick type chart here showing sales increase between the 2 years. Now, let's say we want to do it by country as well. So now we're seeing this additional country information layered in, and I can actually turn this natural language processing, this Q&A conversation that I quickly had, turn that into a visual and just keep that here in my report. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. So you can see I'm selecting Q&A from my visualizations menu over here. It brings it into my canvas. And this time, let's go ahead and look at profit by product and segment. And you can see it is auto-completing. So based on the terms that I'm using, it's trying to identify this Q&A feature is trying to recognize which data fields have I brought in over here and how, what are the relationship that I'm asking for Power BI to visualize. So I can expand this visual and turn it into a visual here as well. And then over here, underneath visualizations, it's actually showing what the Q&A feature selected. So along the y-axis, we have product, these different product names. And then the x-axis, we have the sum of profits. And it's segmenting this visual by the segment. So we've got a legend along the top there. And pretty nice that from just asking a question, Power BI and the Q&A feature created this visual on the fly, and it's fully interactive. So I can select a product and specific segment, and you can see the other visuals are responding to that selection, and vice versa. I can select 2014 Canada, and it is filtering down my profit visual. See a little, there we go. Quick drag and drop here to resize my visuals. And then I can select that same row again, and the visuals go back to their unfiltered state. So a good example here of how Power BI is bringing a lot of functionality right out of the box in a very intuitive fashion. So I'm interacting with these visuals in a very drag and drop manner. If I want to reorder the columns in this table, maybe I want country listed first, then I can do that there. I can resize the width of these columns as well. So really enabling more folks to come into the reporting environment and just interact and see what's possible. In that same spirit, let's go ahead and leave a Q&A visual just on this page 1 of our report. So when we publish this up to the browser, other users will be able to ask questions here as well and see their results pop up. One more type of report or one more type of visual to demonstrate for today is let's look at a decomposition tree, which is a type of data visualization that can be very helpful for representing hierarchical part-to-whole relationships and enabling interactive analysis. So I'm creating a new page here. I've got along the bottom my tabs, much like in Excel. And so now I've got page 1, which I could name if I wanted to, and page 2. And I'm adding a decomposition tree here to this second page. Now I want to select some data to bring in for this decomposition tree. And I'm going to do I want to drill into cost of goods sold, or COGS. And so that is what I'm analyzing, and I want to explain it by year and country and product. So now you can see the visualization is starting to fill out with those fields. And over here in the canvas, I've got sum of COGS, and I can select the little plus icon and expand it by year. So now my sum of COGS is decomposed into the 2 years that are making up this total. I can decompose that further into country, and I can bounce between countries here to see how Canada had 2013. Looks like 2014 was a significantly better year for many of these countries in our sample data set here. And then I can add product as my last layer of decomposition in this sample visual. And again, a helpful way to interact with a hierarchy of data and quickly kind of move between different levels in this decomposition tree. So now that we have a couple different types of sample visuals in our report here, let's go ahead and save. Going to prompt me, so we'll say financial data demo report. This is saving the Power BI file. So if we want to come back to this in the future, we can, much like Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation, now there is a version of this that you can, or I could come back and edit. And now let's go ahead and publish this so that other people on my team can interact with it. So I select the publish option from the command bar here and my workspace. Workspaces are shared spaces within the browser, and I've got a personal one. I've got a few others that I could choose as well. And these are helpful when your team wants a space to collaborate in the cloud and have shared data sets, reports, dashboards within that workspace. So I'm publishing to my workspace, and as the publishing is complete here, it gives me a nice link, and I can pull that open right away. While that is loading up, let's take a quick look at where we are in our demo roadmap here. So we saw quick report creation and enabling self-service data exploration. We published the report to the Power BI service, and now we're going to set permissions to make sure that the right people are seeing the right data. So this report looks familiar. We've got our page 1 and page 2. We can interact with our Q&A box here, and you see it gives a nice quick answer. And we can set permissions on who is able to see this report. So I can add a link, very similar to other cloud sharing. People with access, specific people, people in my organization. I can choose whether they can share this report and build content with the data associated with this report. This can be a really nice way to have one power user build the initial kind of templated report, and then maybe specific managers or other team members build their own iterations of the areas that they're particularly focused on. So easy way to manage sharing here, as well as we can share directly here from the command bar, email, Teams, and PowerPoint. We can create a chat in Teams, which will then include this report, or we can create a subscription. So a subscription is a really nice way if we want to do a weekly status update. I can add different recipients here, and I can set this on a recurring schedule. So maybe every Monday morning, I want to send out this report, and then my team will receive this weekly status update in their email, and we can create multiple subscriptions if different audiences are looking at this data on different cadences. One helpful distinction, now that we're looking at sharing, is the report, dashboard, and app. These are three distinct concepts within Power BI. Today, we've been looking at this report, which we can see is a multiple perspective view on data, a single data set. You can have multiple visuals as well as multiple pages within a report, which is distinct from a dashboard, which I'll show an example of here. So a dashboard is a single page, often called a canvas, and that also uses visualizations very similar to a report to tell a story, but more of a kind of single pane of glass focus. And you can see the Q&A feature in this dashboard as well. And then an app is a bundle of dashboards, reports, and data sets. So you can see I'm looking at a report within this sales and marketing sample app. I can move to another tab and I'm looking at a dashboard here. And these are all bundled together into an app, which can be a really helpful way to group together different data sets and potentially additional functionality that you want to layer in to this app. So now we've seen how to publish a report. We've looked at how to share a report via email, Teams, and more. One other note with Teams is you can actually embed Power BI as a tab within your Teams environment. So you might have a leadership team channel and then have a tab along the top for KPIs that is pulling in a Power BI report there. Really helps save time on data distribution and make sure that the right people are seeing the right data. One of the last parts of our demo for today is taking a quick look at Power BI Embedded and how you can embed Power BI into your existing applications and websites. So going back out to the browser here, you can see there is this Power BI Embedded Analytics Playground, and there are some really great tools if you're a developer. Important caveat here that Power BI Embedded is a more complex offering, so good to have development or data engineering experience if you're working with Power BI Embedded. But briefly, if maybe that is someone else on your team, you can share with them this developer sandbox where they can interact with a sample report and the underlying code and try out some different customizations that maybe they want to do with Power BI. There's also a showcase here where you can get a feel for what's possible when you're embedding Power BI into your existing applications. So a great sample here of how you can use the filtering controls and then create a campaign based on that quickly filtered data. So there's tie-ins here to other APIs and a lot of flexibility when you're treating Power BI then as part of this other ecosystem of web services and APIs. And then there is also you can create a demo or an embedded demo within your application if you want to get even more hands-on or demonstrate to an internal team how it could look and feel to embed Power BI into your application. And a helpful learning center. Of note, the capacity planning for Power BI Embedded is different, whereas Power BI is typically licensed per user. Power BI Embedded is licensed based on consumption. and you can learn more about that in the highlighted articles here. So with that, highlighting or looping back to what I mentioned at the start, that Microsoft has been a consistent leader in the analytics and business intelligence space. Gartner's Magic Quadrant recognized Microsoft for the 16th consecutive year, and they continue to be a very impactful force in this space and a good tool to be investing your time and resources into. Thank you for joining the presentation today. You're welcome to reach out to us, Boyer and Associates here. You can start a trial and learn more about Power BI at this link here. And I would love to connect on LinkedIn if you have additional questions on this topic. So thanks again and best of luck.